Well, you didn't think they were going to do it the easy way, did you? Tottenham have kicked off their Premier League campaign with, in the end, a comfortable 3-1 victory over Aston Villa. It was a quite disappointing game for the first 70 or so minutes, but then it really kicked off with a fantastic goal from Tanguy and Ndombele, and then Harry Kane starting his season with a really, really good brace. And look, it was frustrating for the majority of the game, but they've got it over the line. And at this stage of the season, I mean, getting the win is the most important thing. We've seen obviously Liverpool and Man City start their campaign with some really good wins. So it was important to go out and make sure we got off to a good start. And playing against a promoted team as well, you'd more than expected, I suppose. The performance at the start of the game, it was relatively disappointing. I mean, the first half, we started pretty fast. We had a couple of chances for Lucas Moura. The second one, a really good ball from Danny Rose, an early cross, and Moura on the penalty spot, free header. He probably should have done a lot better, but sorry, just 1 sec, I'm trying to just sort out this live stream. It was a really good cross from Danny Rose, and Lucas Moura you would expect to do better. And ultimately, we were caught out by a goal that you wouldn't expect a team in our position to concede. Aston Villa took a short goal kick, and eventually Tyrone Mings, their left centre-back, was out in the touchline, and he just fired the ball a good 60-70 yards, and it went over the head of Davinson Sanchez, and then John McGinn with the late run from midfield just beat Rose to it, and McGinn, once he got into the box, kind of just a little dummy which sent Rose completely past him, and it was a neat finish in the end by McGinn. But as a goal you really wouldn't expect us to be cut out by. I think Davinson Sanchez, he was really poor in that he was kind of more focused on the tussle with I think it was Wesley, and he wasn't really focused on winning the ball, and eventually by being too caught up in that tussle, the ball ended up going over his head. I think Danny Rose is getting a lot of blame for the goal, which I can understand why, but when you look back at it from the kind of wider angle, you can see that where Sissoko was when the pass was played, he was actually marking John McGinn, and McGinn went to make that late run, and Sissoko just didn't follow it. So I think that immediately dragged Danny Rose out of where he should be, because Trezeguet was out in the right wing, and I mean, McGinn was obviously the immediate danger, but I think Rose should have been. He was right to be more focused on Trezeguet, and that Moussa Sissoko should have followed that run. But having said that, once Rose was there, he was pretty disappointing. I mean, when the ball went over Sanchez, he kind of hesitated a bit, and it allowed McGinn to make it onto the end of it, and he sold himself a bit too easy when he just slid past the dummy from McGinn. And people just joining the stream here: Pancake99, Joshua Humphreys, Alan Harries, Tottenham Reese. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, I think it was a bit disappointing from Rose then, but I think he quickly became one of the best players on the pitch. He was really, really good defensively. There was a few counter-attacking opportunities Aston Villa had, and he quashed them really well. So I think we should be a bit impressed with how Danny Rose did, especially given the poor start that he had. Then moving on throughout the half, Villa did have a good few chances, and I think from their part they came to do a job. They did it really well in that first half, so I think perhaps they might have deserved that half-time lead. We were quite disappointing. We were really slow in possession. We had a lot of possession, but when we did get into the final third, there was no creativity. And I see a lot of people here saying Eriksen changed the game. He showed today he's world class, and I think it's true. He really did change the game. I know his first few contributions were disappointing. His first touch, of course, he hit the first man with the corner. And I see Pancake99 here saying Kyle Walker-Peters was excellent, I thought. And I do think Walker-Peters had a really, really good game. Again, kind of the same as Rose, he was really good defensively. It was pretty difficult him playing up against Anwar El Ghazi and Trezeguet, who are two very physically big players. But he did really well against them. There's a few really good recovery tackles he made. And in that first half, when we were playing that diamonded midfield, as I've been saying throughout pre-season, I think it's just too narrow for the players that we have and the way we try and play football. And we were depending a lot on him and Rose. Kyle Walker-Peters getting forward was absolutely exceptional in that first half, especially because he didn't have as much licence in the second half, but we changed to that 4-4-2. And he was getting picked out a lot with diagonal balls, and I think we were a bit lucky in that Anwar El Ghazi wasn't really tracking back, and eventually they swapped wings and Trezeguet was doing a bit more, and he kind of took Walker-Peters out of the game. But I think Walker-Peters had a fantastic game, and he fully deserved to be on the winning side in it. Obviously then we got into the second half, we again started really quickly. Aston Villa seemed comfortable, just kind of sit behind the ball and try to hold on to what they had, and it was working really well for them, and ultimately it was a fantastic goal from the debutant Tanguy and Ndombele that got us back into it. It was a disappointing performance for the majority of the second half, again in that final third with the lack of creativity, but eventually when that ball I think got to the back post to Harry Kane, he was really patient, he played it out to Lucas Moura. Moura again tried to get it onto his right foot but just couldn't quite find the the space to get the shot away. And it was really patient and really unselfish play. Just lay it back off to Ndombele, and Ndombele running onto it with the inside of his right boot, curled it around into the far corner. It was a fantastic finish. I think Tom Heaton might have done a bit better in that. I think he was over at his right post for the play where Harry Kane and Lucas had the ball, and he didn't quite get back into position properly. And it wasn't exactly right in the corner from Ndombele. Don't get me wrong, it was a great finish, but I think Tom Heaton might have done a bit better there. And then, of course, Captain Kane, my fantasy football captain, thankfully, this weekend, very lucky with that goal that put us 2-1 up. I think it was a bit nice to see that it was Jack Grealish who gave that ball away after we came so close to signing him, and it was just nice to see him mess it up. Again, a disappointing attack from us, and Jack Grealish trying to run the ball out. Lamela, who I think was exceptional. He was all over the place. Again, he didn't show that quality that we might want in that position, but he gave it absolutely everything, and he won the ball back from Jack Grealish, and I think someone tried to play it forward and it took 2 or 3 deflections, and then Harry Kane in the 18-yard box, no one in front of him on his left foot, and he just fired it past Tom Heaton, who had absolutely no chance with that. And then the third goal as well, another fantastic finish from Harry Kane, kind of a typical from him. Got the ball edge of the box, shifted it onto his right boot, and just curled it around right inside that far post. So it was a good day all round. As I said, frustrating for quite a bit. But look, we got over the line in the end, and that's what the start of the season is about. As for the team selection, I was a bit surprised. As I said yesterday, I did think we would go with the 4-2-3-1, and I think ultimately that 4-1-2-1-2 in that first half did let us down a bit. I've been saying it throughout pre-season, I think it's just too narrow for us. And it was, as we'd expect, Winks at the base of the diamond and Sissoko predominantly on the left with Ndombele on the right, but they did switch a bit throughout that half. And getting into that second half, we made the change to 4-4-2. Put Sissoko and Lamela out in the wings with Winks and Ndombele in the middle, and of course Lucas up front with Kane. And there was just a lot more about us when we were getting in the attacks. There's a bit more intensity and a bit more rhythm because there were just more options around the place. In that first half there wasn't much. We couldn't really get any sort of game going, and thankfully that formation change did do well. Again, I was a bit surprised with Pochettino how late he left it to make that sub, but Eriksen, when he did come on, he did really, really well. And there were some good performances out there. Nkudu, when he came on, he looked lively. He was actually going to come on before that first goal went in. He was going to come on for Ndombele, but of course Pochettino he stopped that sub when Ndombele got the goal, and it was a fantastic debut from Ndombele. Not just the goal, I think he was really good, solid in that midfield. He had really good dribbles, good passing, and all that. And look, all around, albeit a frustrating day, I think it was a really good day. Stephen Flynn saying, I said to my mate when in first half, watch when Eriksen comes on, Spurs will win, and I even said 3-1. Del Boy said, people giving Sissoko stick. I agree, but it's not his type of game. He's not in the team to break down sitting defences as he lacks attacking quality. And I think we saw that lack of attacking quality from Sissoko today. He had a few chances, especially that one in the second half at 0-0 when the cross came in from the left and he was free at the back post, 8-10 yards out, and you can see he kind of panicked. He just snatched at the shot, and it ended up going out for a throw on the far side. I think he kind of showed he is better suited to that more defensive position, which again would kind of fit in better in a 4-2-3-1 rather than the 4-1-2-1-2 or the 4-4-2, because in those formations he is kind of more expected to be in the attacking positions. And Kostak is saying Rose was a beast today. Delboy saying Rose messed up with the goal. I think when he got into that position he did, but as I said, with John McGinn making that really late run into the attacking position, it's similar to what Dele Alli does for us. It's so hard for the defenders to keep track of that, and they need the support from the midfield to come back and sort it out. And I think Sissoko, because he was like right beside John McGinn when McGinn made that run, I think he should have followed it. And like, don't get me wrong, when Rose did get into that defensive position, he was poor and he did mess up a bit, but from where the ball came from and where McGinn came from, I just don't think it was his responsibility to do that, because his man Trezeguet was out, he was further wide, and I personally don't think it was entirely Rose's fault, but I do think he could have done a bit better. And Kostak as well saying Spurs are more successful with 4-2-3-1, which was great when we do play it, but again the 4-4-2 in that second half did really well for us. Harris Khan saying, what about Lucas Moura? It wasn't his best game. He did get in some good positions, but I think he struggled a lot in that second half when he had that ball out in the wing. There just wasn't many options for him. As well, of course, he had those few chances early on. 20 seconds into the game, closing down El Mohammadi on the left side and getting into a really good position. And his shot, it was decent, it went over the bar, but he should have done a lot better with that header. Again, early in the first half, Rose with the cross, and it was a free header on the penalty spot. We know he's not the best player in the air, but I think he could have done a bit better with that. Pancake99 saying, Matt, I think we have to keep Eriksen till January at least. He's too important to sell. And I think he proved that today, but I wouldn't be confident yet that he will be staying for at least until January. Obviously, I hope he does, because we haven't signed Fernandes or Dybala. We didn't bring in a replacement for him. I don't think Lo Celso is that. I think he's a player who we've brought in as well as Eriksen. I don't think he's a replacement for him. So we do, at this stage, really need to keep Eriksen. Mitch saying, to be fair, Eriksen, Lo Celso, and most importantly Son in a starting lineup next week fills me with far more hope. Son is actually still suspended for next week. He'll miss the game against Man City. He picked up a red card against Bournemouth in the second last game of last season, so he missed the Everton game, and he'll miss today, and he will miss Man City next week. So unfortunately we won't have Son, but I imagine Lo Celso, as you said, will be back in the squad. Eriksen might get his start. I don't know if Ali is going to be fit, but we might also have Sessegnon and Nkudu, of course, who had a great game today. Harris Khan saying, can we sign Dybala in January? It doesn't really look like we will. I think this was our only chance for it, and a few reports breaking out in the last few days that Juventus pulled out of that deal because after negotiations with the club had been completed, Daniel Levy tried to reduce the price. Look, I don't know if that's true or not, obviously, but I think that deal's over, and because the European window's gone on for so long, Juventus do still want to replace Dybala. So if they do successfully bring in someone like Mauro Icardi, who is their main target, I can see them selling Paulo Dybala maybe to Inter Milan in a deal for Icardi, or potentially to a team like PSG or Real Madrid. So I think we have missed our chance to sign Paulo Dybala, unfortunately. Stephen Flynn saying, how did Ndombele play, Matt? Didn't get to watch the match. Ndombele had a decent game. Again, there was no real standout performers in the first half, but in the second half he was really good. And the goal that he scored, it was about 20-25 yards out, first touch on his right foot into the far bottom corner, and it was a goal typical of the type of player that he is. I saw Sergio Busquets do it for Barcelona in a friendly last week, where it was more of a pass into the corner rather than a shot, and just kind of playing to his strengths. He didn't want to put his foot through it, he wanted to place it, which he knows he's good at. And goals were never really a part of his game, and he's playing with Lyon or at France, but it was great to see him get a goal on his debut at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Of course, the first new signing to play there. He got it off to a great start, and all in all he did have a good game. As I said, not the effect that you might expect him to have on a game against a smaller team like Villa, but he played pretty well, and it's good now that we've kept that run against the promoted sides going. Only lost once under Pochettino to a promoted team, which was Wolves last season. Cameron saying, I'm new here, welcome to the channel, Cameron. Don't forget to hit that notification bell if you haven't already, so you get notified whenever I upload a video or go live. Dr. PO74 saying, very stressful but feels so much sweeter when we come from behind, and that is very true. We're a team who last season came from behind a lot. I think they showed a statistic during that game where we had come from behind at half time to win more games than any other Premier League team. I think that today brings it up to 37. And it is great when you come from behind, but I mean, you'd always prefer that we went 3-0 up and then conceded a late goal so we can kind of enjoy the game more. But it is the Spurs way to do it the hard way. Harris Khan saying, I also heard Daniel Levy went out of the deal for Coutinho. I'm not sure about that. I think Coutinho and Barcelona both pulled out of that because they wanted a permanent deal, and it was a loan deal that Tottenham were more interested in. Stephen Flynn saying, I'll enjoy match of the day, so it's true. We also get to watch West Ham lose 5-0 at home. That's always sweet. Alan Harry saying, why didn't Ndombele celebrate his goal? It was a more muted celebration. I think first of all because it wasn't a goal to celebrate. We hadn't taken the lead or anything. We'd only equalised, and there wasn't much time to go out and get a winner. But he also seemed to dedicate it to someone who had passed away, so it might have been a recent bereavement for him or something. But look, it's the goal that counts, so let's just focus on that. Peter Shane saying, awesome win, bad first half. Kind of worrying that we needed Eriksen to open the game up. Will be a big loss. Look, we will have players in there that we won't be as reliant on Christian Eriksen when Lo Celso gets into the team, and when Ali, Sessegnon and Son all come back. But I think today we did need Eriksen. But look, he's not gone yet, so let's not say he's a big loss. He could still potentially stay at the club. So let's wait and see what happens. Of course, September 2nd, the European window closes. Peter Shane saying, didn't celebrate because it was just a draw level about Ndombele. Matt in Full Vision saying, Villa had me worried for a while, but Kane popped up when we needed him. And Villa were looking really dangerous on the counter-attack in that first half. Some of their new signings were showing great pace. Trezeguet and Anwar El Ghazi were doing well. Wesley didn't get into the game as much as you would expect for a record signing too. But look, I think it was a good game from Villa. Maybe a bit harsh on them that they did lose the game, but I think essentially we were a team. We had almost 30 shots in the whole game. I think we deserved the win more than they did. Harris saying, Lo Celso, can he play behind Kane? That is the position he plays in most of the time. With PSG, he was kind of put in the deeper role, but it didn't suit him, and that's kind of what forced him out of the club. So he does like to play in that number 10 role. He's a similar player to Christian Eriksen. John T is saying, Sissoko was only effective as a defensive midfielder, not on the wing. It doesn't work. And that's a good point, and I think that's also why he won't do really well in the right back position, because again, the way we play, he'd be expected to attack a lot more, as a lot of people were suggesting throughout the window. He could play right back, but I don't think that would be the best thing for us. And he's just such a powerful player. I don't think he's better utilised in that defensive midfield position, albeit beside Wings or Ndombele, it doesn't really matter. He's a great player in those defensive positions. Spurs fan Todd saying, what on earth will we do without Rose? Can't let him go. Cameron Williams saying, if Eriksen could keep up this form, then he would be a big loss. Alex Cowan saying, Kane top scorer this year, 40 goals. You heard it here first. Of course, Kane did have a pretty disappointing season last year. He only scored 17 goals in all competitions, which was half of what he'd scored in the previous season, despite playing only, I think, 8 games less. So it was a poor season for him last year. Of course, missed out in the Golden Boot for the first time in 3 or 4 years. And it was very important for him to get off to a good start. You know, he doesn't usually score in August. He only did that for the first time last year. But to get 2 goals in our first game, and what was a very, very important couple of goals that obviously got us the win. We could see a really high scoring season from him this year. And Cameron saying, no, he's going to score 45. Harris is saying, everybody's talking that we did not sign a striker. To be honest, I think Munir of Sevilla is a good option for us to bring in January. Joshua asking, will Lo Celso play against Manchester City? I don't know if he's going to start. I think he definitely will be in the squad. You know, having just joined on Thursday, it would have been a bit much to throw him straight into first team action. Now, a lot of people, obviously, as you'd expect, are a bit upset that we didn't get the signings done very early in the window. We had, obviously, Lo Celso and Sessegnon come in on deadline day. But Alistair Gold made a great point in an article he wrote, I think yesterday, it could have been Thursday, where he said even if they had come in, they wouldn't have gone straight into the team. It would have been this week when they first got into it, because Sessegnon, of course, is still out through an injury, so he might only have returned to training this week anyway. And Lo Celso haven't played in the Copa America. Neither of them would actually have been playing in any pre-season games. They would only have gotten a couple of extra days of training. So it's not the end of the world that the deals did go right down to the wire. We saved a nice bit of money, and it didn't really affect their preparation for the season, because they would have missed it anyway. Delboy saying he gets injured at least once a season though, which is what could hold him back. And about Harry Kane, those ankle injuries have been absolutely awful for him in the last couple of seasons. But look, if he stays fit for 90% of the season, we know we're going to see a lot of goals from him. Even the season before last, he did pick up 2 ankle injuries, and he still won the Golden Boot by a landslide. Now, Ron Swanson saying man of the match, Matt. It's a tough one, because I think before we turned the game around, Harry Winks and Danny Rose were probably our best players. Harry Winks, again, in that deep-lying midfield role, just absolutely exceptional. There's one potential counter-attack Villa had towards the end of the first half, where it looked like, I think it was Jack Grealish who had been set in on goal from the halfway line, and Winks making it across from that central role out to the right with a fantastic tackle and then taking it past 1 or 2 players. And that just summed up what he is so good at. It's definitely his strength, and I think we're really lucky to have him in that first half. Obviously, you have to give Harry Kane a mention, scoring the 2 goals to turn the game around. And I don't know if we'd put in Ndombele in that bracket for today, because he did have a big effect in the game with the goal, but I don't think it was a standout performance from him. Joshua Humphrey saying that Winks tackle was absolutely sensational. So if I had to pick a man of the match, I'd probably give it to Harry Kane, just because of the 2 goals that he scored to turn it around. Matt in Full Vision saying, why didn't Jan Vertonghen play? I'm pretty sure he's not injured. This is a bit of a confusing one. None of us were really expecting this. He, according to the club, apparently he has a minor back injury, and he'll be back next week against Manchester City. But there was a report yesterday that Jan Vertonghen would be left out of the squad due to a contract dispute, which I don't believe for a second, because only a few days prior, Vertonghen had said he's really happy at the club, and there is only a year left on his contract, but he said he's really happy at the club and he will sign a new contract. It's only a matter of sorting out the finer details in it now. So officially he was injured, but according to a few reports, it may be a contract dispute. Now he was at the game. He was sitting with Ryan Sessegnon and Dele Alli, watching the game from the stands. Cameron saying Aston Villa did well to hold on to the 1-0 lead for that long, and they did. We were putting them under a lot of pressure, and I think they had some really good performers in that defence. Bjorn Engels making his debut, first game in the Premier League. I thought he was absolutely exceptional. He made some really good tackles, some good blocks, some good clearances. he was potentially Aston Villa's best player in the pitch, and Tyrone Mings as well. Not as big an effect, but they're both really solid in there. And for the first 70 minutes, every ball that came into their box, one of them seemed to win it. And Tom Heaton as well had a really good game. Just before our first goal, he made a fantastic save from Davinson Sanchez, and that Christian Eriksen free kick that he tipped around the post. I thought Heaton, fantastic debut from him, but ultimately it wasn't enough for them to get the point, obviously. Delboy saying Potter doing his classic thing of not starting a player if they go against the club, saying they want to leave. Like with Kyle Walker now, he'll start leaving Christian out because he's stubborn. Joshua Humphrey saying, why was Lo Celso not sat with Dele Alli and Sessegnon? I'm not sure. He was presented to the crowd before the game, but it could be something to do with the language barrier. Of course, he has never played in England before, so he can't speak English. So he might have preferred to just not be with them because, as Josh was saying, language issues I think would have been the main thing there. Spurs 13 saying Kyle Walker-Peters is our new right back. That performance was really good. It was so good, and it was, as I said, his physical attributes were kind of picked off again today, because mainly in that first half when El Ghazi was playing out in the left wing for Villa, Tom Heaton, when he had the ball, he was playing it right out on top of Walker-Peters and he was losing every aerial ball. So as I've been saying, his physical attributes aren't as good as they should be. He's not tall enough and he doesn't seem to be strong enough. But look, he had a great game today, and he was a good part of us winning that game because he stopped a few important Villa attacks. So we have to be glad he was there. And Joshua was saying man of the match, Kyle Walker-Peters and Christian Eriksen. Shamir is saying, what do you think about the performance of Ndombele? As I've said, I think it was a decent performance from him. Nothing exceptional, but we have to recognise the major impact he had in that game, getting the goal that brought us back into it. A really good finish from outside the box. So I was delighted with how he did. His first game in the Premier League, it was always going to be difficult for him to acclimatise. The intensity and all that is so much different, especially to the French league where he was playing. So I think he did really well getting into it for the first time. But again, no, it wasn't really the best performance ever. Matt in Full Vision saying, I got to go now, mate. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining the stream, Matt. Have a good evening. Cameron saying, man of the match, Tom Heaton. Great saves, as I said, from Davinson Sanchez, from Christian Eriksen. I think there's one or two in the first half he did really well. And even that Sissoko miss, he got out to him really quickly and put him off a bit. Delboy saying, calm down a little bit. We knew Kyle Walker-Peters would be good against a promoted side, but let's judge him after next week before we say our new right back is amazing. Of course, a massive test for us next week playing against Manchester City. Sterling, who I'm sure will be playing on that left wing, scored a hat-trick for them against Man City today. And they started off a bit slow, but Man City looked like they were right at their best today. Scored 5 against West Ham. I think they've scored something like 22 goals now at the London Stadium. And the next highest scoring team there, apart from West Ham, is Liverpool, who've only scored 9. So they do have a really good record there, which I think we have to acknowledge. But they looked absolutely exceptional today. Kevin De Bruyne, Gabriel Jesus, Sergio Aguero, when he came on, looked bright. So I think we could be in for a really tough game next weekend. But there were a few weaknesses that Man City kind of showed today, and we'll talk about them in my match preview later in the week before we play City. Colby as well saying, Kyle Walker-Peters was amazing today, but we need to see much more of him to judge. Can't put so much in one game, but let's hope for the best. Harris Khan saying, is Eriksen a real game changer? I think today he was good when he came on. It wasn't like every performance that he puts in, I wouldn't say it's a lazy performance, but it's a quite laid back performance. And when he doesn't have an impact in the game, that's the first thing people jump on. But even today, he wasn't the most lively player in the world. It's just the way he plays. And there were one or two tackles he got in with that high press, but you can't pick on his style of play when he doesn't do well and then praise it when he does, when he's playing the exact same way. So he's a very laid back player. I wouldn't use the word lazy, but today he was a real game changer. But we do have, in the coming weeks, we'll have a few players returning like Dele Alli and Heung-min Son, and then the new signing Sessegnon and Lo Celso still to get into the team. So I don't think we will be as reliant on Christian Eriksen further into the season as we were today. The SJD 001 saying, man of the match got to be Kyle Walker-Peters. Sissoko wasn't great today, but then we had no creative players and Villa did just park the bus. Silver Surfer saying Eriksen looks weak on the ball, looks very laid back, and again it's just the way he plays. I would say he's weak on the ball, but he's not the most intense player. He likes to take his time, he likes to relax when he's on the ball, which I think it works well because you never see him panic when he has it. He always kind of he weighs up his options and all that, and he's not too eager to get things done, which I think was a problem for us today. We had a few chances, the players were getting a bit frustrated and all they wanted to do was just shoot, and there was a few potential attacks that were just wasted by shots flying over the bar. There were one or two by Ndombele as well. Shamir saying our defence was a bit sloppy and I don't think Winks should play CDM. Yeah, the defence wasn't at its strongest today, but Harry Winks in CDM, I completely disagree with what you said there. He today one of our best players. I was a bit surprised when he was taken off, but I think it was understandable bringing on a more attacking player to try and change the game in our favour. But Harry Winks is without a doubt one of our best players. Last season he was pivotal to what we accomplished in the Champions League, and what he does in the midfield isn't always the most noticeable thing. When we're attacking, he like sits behind the attack and he transitions between the different phases of play, and he's so patient in the attacks. Like he doesn't just when he gets the ball, he doesn't lump it back in on top. He passes it from side to side and he keeps the attacks going, and he doesn't allow the opposing team to get out. And defensively, it's something that not a lot of people notice about him. Some of the tackles he puts in and some of the interceptions, he's just so clever and he can read the game so well. And as I mentioned, that tackle at the end of the first half when Jack Grealish stopping a clear 1-on-1 opportunity was a really, really good tackle, and he's absolutely exceptional playing in that defensive midfield role, and I think he's really important to the team. Harris Khan saying, I have to say we are in the title race, as in football, everything is about belief. Delboy saying he's so much smarter and gifted than Lamella, would be such a downgrade if we started Lamella instead of him every week, and I assume that's about Christian Eriksen. Colby saying, I don't think we will be as reliant on Eriksen in the future, but we need him badly for a long season, which I agree with. Ian Richardson saying that equaliser rescued Ndombele's debut. I wouldn't say it rescued it, but it made it look a lot better than it was. As I said, it's a really difficult thing to acclimatise to your first game in the Premier League, especially coming from the French League, which is a much lower level than the English football. Harris Khan saying Harry Winks, he can't run with the ball like Sissoko does or Moussa Dembele did. He wouldn't be as good as that, but I don't think that's the role that he plays. I think he's more, as I said, transitioning from play, and when he's in that role, he does have Sissoko or Ndombele beside him who can do that. So I don't think it's important that he does. But he even showed a few times today he can take the ball past a man, but he's not someone who's going to run the length of the pitch and score you a goal. I think though he is a crucial part of our team, and Ian Richardson saying Winks as well was massive today. Everton Myrie saying let's calm down, we'll get better as the season progresses, overall good performance. And it did frustrate me, the meltdown on social media at half time on Facebook and Twitter. Everyone was saying Davinson Sanchez was useless, Alderweireld is nothing without Vertonghen, and just picking on all these individual players for how they did. And first of all, it was only half time and it was only 45 minutes into a season, and it always seems to be the thing with Tottenham fans, when something small goes wrong, immediately everyone jumps on top of the players and all that. And it was a bit disappointing to see after people kind of resolved the issues after the transfer window. They said, let's look to the season ahead, and it was just awful to see so quickly that people were turning on all the players. Now Colby is saying after Ndombele scored, his confidence shot up. He was really good in the ball after that. I think he's going to be excellent, which is true. He was a lot better I think everyone was a lot better after that first goal, because the confidence went up and you could see there was a lot more fluidity to our play, and there was more movement being made in that final third, and everything kind of improved after that first goal. I think it was because Aston Villa kind of panicked a bit and they were a bit more willing to get out to try and potentially go on and get the winner, and it was just then they started opening up, and Harry Kane of course got his 2 goals. I think it's Joshua Humphreys there asked a second ago what players are back for the City game. I'm not entirely sure. I think Dyer, Wanyama and Davis are all back in training. Dele Alli, I don't think it has been announced whether or not he will be back. Of course Foyth and Son are both suspended. Sessegnon, I think he's very close to returning, and I imagine Lo Celso will be in the squad. I don't know if he'll start again because of the kind of language barriers there. It wouldn't be ideal to throw him straight into the team. But yeah, there's only a few players who will be back for that game. Carmen saying, should Spurs sign anyone else in January? I think we have to sign a player every chance we get. Every transfer window we have to try and go out and get that player who is good enough. Harris saying, we as Tottenham Hotspur team, in what position can we play against Man City? I'm not sure, I don't really understand the question. I think against Man City we will revert to that 4-2-3-1, because as I was saying about a few of their weaknesses today, one of them was Rodri, and when City were on the back foot and when he was in possession in kind of deep positions, when he's put under pressure he was really slow in possession and he was struggling to keep things going. Now in the attacking third he was sensational, and that could be a worry for us, but I think City didn't look too comfortable on the ball today. They were caught a lot out in pre-season and the Community Shield as well, so I think playing in that 4-2-3-1 against them with that high press could get us something out of the game. Shamir saying Sissoko did play quite sloppy, his crosses, and had a very poor shot and goal. Spurs 13 asking why nobody played Toby's release clause. He was outstanding today. And Del Boy saying Dyer was on the bench today. I didn't realise that, so I'm sure he'll be of course ready for City next week. Ian Richardson saying, still thankful to Sissoko for the job he did last season, but his decision making in the final third reminded me that he wouldn't get into any other top four side. I think that's a bit unfair. He's not someone who's usually playing in that final third. In the defensive role, he's so much better, and I think he would get into probably United's team. I don't think anyone on our team right now would get into Liverpool and City's team because they're doing so well with the players that they have. But no, I think Sissoko, he was playing a bit out of his comfortable position today, so I don't think we can be too harsh on him. And of course, remember, it is the first game of the season. Everyone's going to be a bit rusty. So I think we need to lay off the players a bit after today. Everton saying, when the team is at full strength, we will see the midfield begin to dominate as the new players get to understand their mates, which is a great point. Once the new additions in that midfield gel, we'll see a lot more chemistry and a lot more power in there. Alan saying, do you believe we should offer Danny Rose a new and improved contract as well as Eriksen? I think if Eriksen does stay past the 2nd of September, it is without a shadow of a doubt the main thing they need to get done in terms of contracts this season. We absolutely need to tie him down. Even if it is just to sell him on next summer for more money, we can't afford to let him go on a free and get in enough money to replace him as quickly as possible. And Danny Rose, I think he only recently signed a new contract, whether it was last season or the year before. But I don't think that's important because Pochettino has now said he's a crucial part of his plans for the season ahead. So I don't think a Danny Rose contract will be top of the priority list right now. Harris is saying, to be honest, are we really good in Diamond? Because I think we are not. What if we play 4-3-3 like Barcelona? That Diamond, it doesn't seem to suit us. The players that we had in pre-season and today, I don't think it suited us. When we're back at full strength, it might be a bit better for us. I'm not sure, but only time will tell. I don't know if a 4-3-3 would be the best for us because in that midfield, if we are going to play that, we need to have a defensive. We need two defensive players, kind of the way we play in midfield, and one of them will be out wide and one central. And I just don't think that is the best for what we have in the team at the moment. Craig Bowler saying, Sissoko is a fantastic athlete, he just can't play football. I'm 46 and my touch is still better than his, I'm not even joking. Ian Richardson saying, and yeah, he's not there to be the creative player, but a league challenger wouldn't feel a CDM with such poor quality in the final third. Cameron saying, once Lo Celso learns English, our midfield will be amazing. Ali, Lo Celso, Eriksen and Ndombele, Winks, Wanyama, Dyer, Sissoko. That is a really strong looking midfield, and you haven't even mentioned Son, Lucas and Lamela in there. So we have a fantastic midfield, and it could be really important for us in challenging on all four fronts in the season ahead. Being able to rotate so much and not losing much quality when we do rotate. I think we're in a good position for the season ahead. Paranormal Frank saying, hi Matt, Kyle Walker-Peters had a good game, and he did. Again, I wouldn't have him as our main option in right back for the season ahead, but I do think he had a really good game, and he was exposed a bit with his his lack of height and strength, but all things considered, it was a really good performance from him. Carl Calleja saying, Ndombele had a good game. Glenn Hill saying, hi Matt, Eriksen needs to sign a new contract, which again I think he does, even if it is just to add value when we sell him in a year or two. I think it is important. Harris Khan is saying Sissoko is Moussa Dembele, he's like Moussa Dembele, we should care about him. I wouldn't put him in the same kind of bracket as Dembele, certainly not in terms of quality, but even the way he plays, I think Dembele is a lot more comfortable in possession, in letting passes go and stuff. So I wouldn't compare them, but as you say, Sissoko, he was a fantastic player for us last year, and I do think he deserves a bit more respect. Again, being played out of position today, it wasn't ideal for him. Delboy saying, our best team, in my opinion, will be 4-2-3-1. Lloris in goal with Kyle Walker-Peters, Alderweireld, Vertonghen and Rose, and Ndombele and Winks, then Lo Celso, Son and Eriksen behind Kane, which is, for opposing teams, a terrifying team to look at. There's so much strength in there. There's real solidity in defence. There's a strong midfield with a lot of creativity behind a clinical striker. That is potentially our best team going into the season ahead. Maybe when Foyth is fit, he might be better off in right back, but it is a really good team. And the depth, the players we haven't even mentioned there, like Lucas, Dele Alli, Moussa Sissoko, Davinson Sanchez, Ben Davis, Serge Aurier. There's a lot of depth in that team. Cameron saying, I feel like Eriksen will go in January, which of course is still a possibility. He can't even go this summer still. The SJD saying, we could see that we missed Son today. We were really direct attacking at Villa, and fair play to Villa for putting up a good game. It was looking like a game where we were struggling to break them. Paranormal Frank saying Eriksen might buy into our new project and stay. Fingers crossed. It would be great if he does, but unfortunately at the moment I don't think he will. Ian Richardson saying, I'm with Craig here minus the hyperbolic banter, I guess. That's about Sissoko and his poor performance today, and his poor ability, I suppose, is what Craig was getting at. Silver Surfer saying, thoughts on Lamela and Lucas Moura today's performance. Do you see them starting over See them starting often this season. Lamela, he again, it's like we always get from him. He gave absolutely everything when he was on the pitch, and he sprinted after every single ball. He went into every challenge, but his creativity and his quality wasn't at the level you'd expect of a player playing in our team. So I think he does deserve the chance, and he is good when we're out of possession, pressing everything. But when we do get the ball, he's not the best player. But I do like seeing him in the team. Glenn Hill saying Sissoko really needs shooting practice, can't hit a barn door. Alan saying Sissoko just needs to stick to assists and not go for goal. He should play to his strength. Cameron saying who should play, Eriksen or Ali, and Kyle Walker-Peters or Aurier against City. I'd put Kyle Walker-Peters in there because of his performance today, and Aurier, he hasn't played in pre-season yet. He's just coming back from an injury. I wouldn't throw him straight into a game against Manchester City, especially playing up against the likes of Raheem Sterling in that one. Kai saying score predictions against City. I'm not expecting much out of that City game, to be honest, and it's not me being negative or pessimistic or anything. It's just being realistic. City were incredible today against West Ham, and I know they're not a strong team, and they were obviously at a much better level than them, but I'm not expecting much from the City game. But at the end of the day, they're one of the best teams that have ever played in the history of English football, so it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we do lose to them. But as I was saying, I think if we do kind of try to exploit those weaknesses that we saw today with their kind of sloppiness on the ball at the back, and Rodri especially playing in that deep lying midfield role, when he did get possession, he was slow on the ball, and he wasn't looking great. So there are a few weaknesses there that we can try and exploit, but their attacking today was just it was scary to watch. Like Kyle Walker down that right hand side for the first goal, the pace that he showed, it was like a 10-15 yard race against Aaron Cresswell, and Cresswell had a few yards head start, and Walker beat him by a couple of seconds to that ball. The pace absolutely blistering. And players like Riyad Mahrez, Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, and Leroy Sané is injured, but they're a terrifying prospect, and I think we will really struggle against them. Spurs 13 saying we beat them in the Champions League, of course. Paranormal Frank saying Sissoko can't score, has to pass the ball, that should be his main focus. Glenn Hill saying the defence needs sorting, and Craig saying not convinced with Foyth either for the right back position. Aaron is saying we need more goals from midfield players if we are going to challenge. I'm not too sure what players can provide that other than Son and Kane. Well, I mean, Lucas got in the score sheet a lot last season. It's a part of Lo Celso's game that he showed a lot at Betis, and players like Sessegnon and Ali as well could get on the score sheet. But when we have a striker who, like Kane, can score 20-30 goals a season, I don't think it's absolutely vital that we have various midfield players who can do it. But players like Son, who scored something like 15 goals last year, and Lucas, Eriksen, Lo Celso, Ali, all getting goals here and there. I think when that is 6 players scoring for you, I think that would be enough. Ian Richardson saying Winks has got the odd slip in him, but he's still a year or two off being the finished article and is just getting back into the pace of things after his injuries. Lone Wolf saying Villa midfield ran out of steam in the second half. I think they all did, especially that goal knocked a lot out of them when we got level, and they kind of started panicking, thinking, that was it, Tottenham was going to come at him for the next 20 minutes until they did get the goal, and ultimately we did. But I think Villa just panicked a bit too much, because as I said, they were so good defensively. Bjorn Engels and Tyrone Mings were, I think, sensational, and didn't deserve to be on the losing side, but in the end, I'm not going to complain that we won the game. Cameron Spurs saying, I feel like Spurs are going to finish third with Liverpool first and Man City second, as our squad depth is good, but when Sané and Mane or even Martial are running at Kyle Walker-Peters, we could be very vulnerable. And that's why the fans wanted the club to address that right back position over the summer, up against those top players like Mane, Sané, Martial. I don't think Kyle Walker-Peters and Foyth have what it takes to deal with them for 90 minutes, which is why we wanted to sign a new right back. But look, we're in this position now where we have to go with the players we have this season. We have to get behind them and hope that ultimately they do have the quality to do that. Colby saying the sooner the City away game is over for the season, the better. I would rather not have City away in the second half of the season, and what could be a key point, that is a good point. Joshua saying we won't sell Eriksen in January as we have no replacement. I mean, ultimately we could sign a replacement in January. That's not off the table. Paranormal Frank saying, Matt, what did you think of Eriksen not starting? I think, as someone said a while ago in the comments, when a player does kind of express a desire to leave the club, Pochettino doesn't like to give him consistent game time, and I think it would have something to do with that, and potentially his future isn't fully sorted out. There might be something going on behind the scenes with the potential departure in there. Look, I wasn't surprised to see him leave, but I think it is kind of a suggestion that he may not be at the club come the 3rd of September. Craig Bowler saying, I prefer more physical players in that position like a Declan Rice or Dyer when he was in good form. I think Winks will be better further up the field. I'm not too sure I agree with that. I think Winks, as I said, is probably our best defensive midfielder in terms of what he's shown today especially. I think he was better than Ndombele, and I think it's really important for him to be there. Delboy saying, I prefer Aurier in those games just because he's better defensively and strong and fast enough to compete. Joshua saying, yeah, but it's hard to buy in January. It is hard to buy, but if we do sell Eriksen, we will need to buy no matter what, and we may need to invest a bit more money than we do generate from selling Eriksen, but if we sell him, we absolutely need to replace him. Ian Richardson saying, we may find that against the paciest wingers, Poch puts Sanchez on the right flank instead of Foyt. The rest of the time, I'm cautiously optimistic about Juan. Cameron saying, our depth in the striking position is awful, as we have Kane and Llorente, but then who else do we have? Do we need to sign another attacker to give Kane a rest? Llorente has left. He was released at the end of last season. He was offered a new contract, but there's been nothing yet about whether or not he's going to sign that. We do have players like Troy Parrott coming through the academy, who I think could be get into the first team this season. But we also have Son and Lucas Moura. Signing an attacker wasn't a priority for us this season, and I think it was right that it wasn't. I think we'll be okay for the season ahead. And Spurs 13 saying, no way, Aurier is just a mistake waiting to happen. Which is true. He hasn't been at his best since coming in from PSG. I think he struggled getting used to the Premier League. But we don't have the best options for right back, unfortunately, this season. But again, the players that are there, we just need to trust in them that they will get the job done. I'll just take a few more comments here from the chat. Silver Surfer saying, looks like it's going to be really hard for us this season. Every 3 points will matter. The Realist saying, where's all those fans that were saying we should sign Grealish? The only good thing he's done was gifting us 3 points. And finally, Delboy saying, if we sell Eriksen now, January will be too long. We'll already have fallen behind. You've seen we can't create without him. Kyle King saying Eriksen was a game changer. And Ian Richardson saying, if Aurier has a future, it might be as a winger. So that's all I have time for this match review today. I will publish this afterwards if you want to go back and watch any bits that you've missed. If you do want more content like this, these interactive live streams or just normal videos, hit the subscribe button down